Welcome to Podnutz Daily for August 26, 2008, episode number 64. First thing I want to talk about is a Dell Inspiron 1721. That's one of those big new ones, nice ones too. This was one of those green ones. Or had a green lid anyway. Poor customer spilled a glass of water in the thing. Now they did the right thing, and then they did the wrong thing. They did the right thing by pulling the battery out and turning the thing off. And I think they turned it upside down and shook all the water out, and I think they blew a hairdryer or something on it. And then 3 hours later, they tried it. Now, you can't do that. You can't, if the thing's wet, like I said before, I recommend you take it to somebody who's going to take the whole thing apart and just make sure all the parts are dry. And first thing you want to do is pull the battery out, take the AC adapter out. Do not try to turn the thing on. If you want to play it safe, which I recommend, if you're dealing with a $1,000 laptop, take it to somebody who's going to take it apart. Make sure all the parts are dry. Put it all back together, and then you should be okay. If you wait 3 hours, you're probably going to short the thing out. The thing's still going to be wet inside because there's so many little crevices that the water could get into. 3 hours isn't enough. A week may be enough. You're blowing air on it for a week. That may be enough, but there's still going to be moisture probably in there that if somebody actually took the thing apart and dried all the parts, that the moisture would not be there anymore. Well, according to this customer, only that certain keys in the keyboard wasn't working. After they turned it on after 3 hours, the thing worked, but certain keys in the keyboard weren't working. Well, I didn't take any chances. I took the whole thing apart, and I looked at each part. And there was corrosion on several parts of the motherboard and other circuit boards in the thing. So I take a little toothbrush, and I just brush all the corrosion off. And if I have to really get in there, I use I've been using Purell at the office. I know I mentioned this before, that hand sanitizer. I've been using that. I put a little bit of that on the toothbrush, and that will, because it's alcohol-based, it dries real fast, and it gets a lot of things out, like a lot of stains and corrosion and stuff like that. Put on the end of the toothbrush, it scrubs right out. I took some pictures of it with my iPhone. I didn't have time to get them posted here, of what the corrosion looks like on certain parts of the motherboard. It was in places you wouldn't even think. The motherboard looked fine, but when you turned it upside down, there was like 8 spots on the other side that you didn't even know were there. And then there's other circuit boards, like the modem card, and you don't expect corrosion to be on that. But sure enough, as soon as you unscrew it and pull it up, the corrosion is in there. So you don't want to take for granted on a cursory glance of the motherboard that there's no corrosion. You got to take all the stuff that's attached to it off, and you'll see that in all the little crevices, there is going to be some corrosion. Clean all that up. I put the whole thing back together, and yes, the keyboard doesn't work. I talked about this before. Those keyboards, once water gets seeped into the layers of those keyboards, it's impossible to fix them. So just need a new keyboard. And the keyboard's only like $30 on eBay. And it's from the next state over. They're shipping it from the next state over, so I'm going to have it in 2 days. Customer will have a perfectly good laptop. And I consider that she got lucky, because you don't want to wait 3 hours and then turn these things on after you spill liquid in them. You want to take them somewhere who's going to take them apart, or you take it apart yourself if you're confident in your abilities, and you make sure all the parts are dry. You put it back together. Everything will be fine, hopefully, if it's not too late. A customer brought in a desktop that he tried to partition his hard drive, I believe, and it kind of crashed on him. It wouldn't boot. The error that came up when we tried to boot it was NTLDR is compressed. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have seen NTLDR is corrupt. This is the first one I've seen compressed. There is a fix for this. We ran the fix. The computer booted right up. I don't know the fix. My dad did this computer. I asked him to email me the link, so I will get that link for you with the fix on it, and then you could see what we did. And I'll ask him tomorrow, and we'll get that link for you for that. And it fixed it right up. It was like a 5-minute fix. Then we also had NTLDR is corrupt, second computer we worked on today. I didn't get a chance to look at that, so I don't know the fix for that yet, but. Okay, I talked about yesterday an iMac power supply, how they're so expensive. It's like $179 for this iMac power supply. So I decided to take it upon myself to take this power supply apart and see if I could see what was blown out in it. And 4 capacitors were popped in this power supply. So I replaced those 4 capacitors today. It took me about 3 hours. I don't know if it was worth it yet because I didn't get a chance to test it yet, but it's all back together and put together. I'm going to go back after the podcast and test it. Even though it took me 3 hours, and it was such tedious work to take those capacitors off. And luckily I saved motherboards and other components around my shop because I found all the capacitors I need on these other motherboards, to the exact specifications. So I pulled all the capacitors off those motherboards, and that's not fun either. You got to desolder them, pull them out, make sure you don't damage them, and then you got to put them into the new one. And it's too much work. I would spend, if I had to do it over again, even though I don't know if it's going to work or not, I would spend the money to get a brand new one. So when you get to the nitty-gritty there with the power supply or the motherboards and switching out capacitors, if it's more than one, and this was 4, it's a lot of work. Okay, let me play a message here from Barbara. Here we go.
Hey, Steve, this is Barbara. I want to talk to you a little bit about all of this business you're getting, downgrading these Vista PCs to XP. I know you mostly talk about the driver issues you're having, but I recently had a client. She's elderly, and she's wonderful, and I was pretty much teaching her, how to make folders, how to organize her data, how to upload pictures from her camera, things like that. And her computer went out, and she needed a replacement. And this was about, I want to say like 2 months ago. And I really debated about what we should do. I didn't want to introduce a new operating system to her, obviously. It would just be too much. She was just learning the basics. So we ended up going to Dell and purchasing Windows XP machine. And I didn't know if you considered this downgrading that you do, the lifeline of XP. Most sites say it's going to be supported through April of 2009. XP Pro is looking at hopefully through April of 2014, which is awesome. But I don't know if you convey this message to your clients and say, you know what, I will gladly do it, but keep in mind it may not be supported very long, things like that. I also wanted to let you know that when I was trying to leave you this voicemail, contacting you through Skype, I often got an invalid phone number. I don't know if any of your other callers encountered that, but I wanted to bring that up. And just let me know, did you consider, kind of letting your clients know that, the lifeline of XP is not very long, even though I have no problem with that. I mean, I know XP is an issue, and it's a big bite for some people who are not used to XP and, moving to a new operating system